All right, so another instance where I want to pick numbers is more like theory level questions, right? Like things about like properties of positives and negatives and integers and fractions and all that stuff, right? So still the same thing though, right? It's that I have these variables in the question and I have these variables in the answer choices, right? So instead of just trying to think of this on more theoretical level, I'm just going to use numbers and try to disprove things, right? So I have that x is a positive integer, right? Is a positive integer. I have y is a positive fraction, and I have z is a negative integer, right? Okay, so let's go through and try to basically disprove answer choices because we want to know what must be true, right? So does it have to be true that x times y is greater than 1? Well, it doesn't. So if we think of like, so we know that x times y is going to be positive, right? But we don't necessarily know that it's going to be greater than 1, because what if x is 1 and y is 1/2, right? That would be 1/2, and 1/2 is not greater than 1, right? So a is going to be gone, right? So don't look at answer choice A and think like x times y is positive. It means it's positive and has to be greater than 1, and that is not necessarily going to be true, right? It could be, right? So like I could have 3/2. I could make y 3/2 and x 1, and that would be greater than 1. But if we make it a fraction less than 1, a is going to not necessarily be true, right? Okay, answer choice B would be that x times y is a positive fraction, right? So that could be the case, right? In the case that if I had x is 1 and y is 1/2, or x is 1/2, or x is 1 and y is 3/2. But what if x is 2 and y is 1/2? Well, that would be 2 times 1/2, and that's going to equal 1, and that's not a fraction. So B doesn't have it. B can be true, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true, right? C is that x over y is greater than y over z, right? And for this, if we look at what's x over y going to be, x over y is going to be a positive over a positive, right? And y over z is going to be a positive over a negative, right? So basically what we're going to get for x is x over y is definitely going to be positive, and x over z is going to be negative. So it must be true that x over y is greater than y over z, because a positive divided by a positive is always going to be bigger than a positive divided by a negative. So I'm going to keep C. Sometimes it's easy to not, or to not think of, some cases for these. So I'm just going to try and go through and disprove D just to make sure that I have it correct. So D would be that x, y, z doesn't equal -1. Well, now let's try, let's go with basically, here, let me erase this really quick. Let's go with our numbers of x is 2, y, and y is 1/2, right? What if we said z is -1, right? That would give us what? 2 times 1/2 times -1, and that's going to give us 1 times -1, which equals -1, right? So it doesn't have to be true that D doesn't equal -1, and we would be left with answer choice C.